Greetings all! Well, as promised, with Halloween coming, I did say that I would engage in some of my creepier stories. I've done this in the past. I really can't quite bring myself to start talking about ghosts at the moment yet. I'm just not quite in the mood. But how about graveyards? Yeah, Halloween's coming on us here, and we got a full moon. They don't usually get a full moon on Halloween, so that's a big deal because you're going to be able to see out there after dark, which means we can go out and go tripping around in the moonlight, creeping around. Well, graveyards. I mean, Halloween's going to be different this year, that's for sure, right? It's not the same as it used to be, but if there's one place where you're probably not going to spread COVID, it's in a graveyard. The dead don't breathe. Yeah, so when I was a teen, tripping around graveyards on full moon nights was an activity. We'd get Terry Hake's old 61 Rambler station wagon, that old red and white beast his dad let him have, and we'd pile it with some of the guys, and then we'd go on, drive over and pick up some of the cheerleaders and put some of the girls in there too, and we'd all go heading out on a full moon night looking for a graveyard. We had a few favorites, they're usually the ones we liked, all right, were the ones that were really way out somewhere in the Tuoles, generally pretty old, and the best ones completely abandoned, no maintenance whatsoever. Oh, thumbs up, man. Those were the finest. The one that I recall, we actually called it the Abandoned Cemetery. Now, I was just doing a little bit of looking in on Google Earth over here, and I was trying to put my finger on exactly where that cemetery had been, because probably the last time I was there, I was 17 years old. Okay, it's been a long time. But I found it. The neighborhood around it seems to have changed a lot. They may have even moved a couple of the roads since then, but it does still exist, although looking in on Google, it appears somebody has gone in and they have spruced it up and tried to maintain it, okay? So no way that this is anything like it once was. Long time ago, the abandoned cemetery was lost between two farm fields in northern Illinois. There was a little farm road, little corridor with trees over it that ran down one of the farmer's fence lines. And if you got out of the car and started trucking down that corridor of trees between two farm fields, eventually what you would find would be a cemetery back there in the woods that was just lost. I did some research because I was trying to remember exactly how old some of the gravestones were. This was a long time ago. They were really old, and what I found out is that Decatur, Illinois, has a cemetery that is claimed to be the oldest graveyard in Illinois. It has tombstones dating back to 1813. Now, I'm positive that our abandoned cemetery had tombstones in it that were older than that. I know for sure there were birth dates on some of the tombstones that were 18th century. We had some 89 birth dates and things like that. There were definitely deaths in there that were buried in the very beginning of the 19th century. I know when I saw these tombstones as a boy, I was kind of astounded because I had no idea there were even any people other than Native Americans and maybe some fur trappers that were in that area at all back in those days. But so I have to challenge what I found on Google as far as who has the oldest cemetery in Illinois. Now, it's possible that our abandoned cemetery was the second oldest in Illinois. I don't actually have the exact dates written down from those tombstones, but they were old. I've never seen tombstones that old anywhere else in the Midwest. And so the way this used to go is, like I say, Terry Hake would come swinging by. We'd pick up the guys, we'd throw, Ken Swoboda maybe, and maybe John Kamen, Terry Hake, and then we'd go get Jackie Grote, and heck, I can't even remember all the cheerleaders' names anymore, but we'd pack that old station wagon full, and we'd head out there on a full moon night, all of us psyching ourselves up to go, yeah, you ever been to this place? Oh, no, man, I never been there. Oh, I've been there, man. It's creepy, big time, and the girls would be shivering, and I want to go home. No, come on, this is going to be fun, And so we'd park on the side of a country road there. It even had a strange name, Ela. Odd name, Ela. And we'd get out, and you say there'd be this draw between two farm fields that had trees hanging over it right along the fence line. And we get and start hiking down that little trail. Probably had to head back in there, almost 40 acres. It was probably 8 to a quarter mile walk down that little trail getting into the cemetery. Once we approached the gate, now this had big pylons of stone or brick on both sides where the hinges for the gates had been mounted at one time, but things were tipping. Everything was falling apart. One of the gates was hanging, half off of the hinge, and they were made out of old rusty wrought iron with the little spear points and everything on top, The graveyard had been abandoned for so long that there were literally 100-year-old oak trees growing right up out of the middle of graves. It was as freaky as it gets. So we'd go on in there, and maybe there'd be a little mist in the woods, and the moonlight would be pouring down through the trees. And I know right in the middle of that cemetery there was one really big monument, and it was knocked sideways at a cant, it was off about 10, 15 degrees because the tree roots had really disturbed almost everything. There wasn't hardly a straight gravestone anywhere in that cemetery. Plants growing through the middle of the graves and crooked stones, and you had to pull the weeds aside to see most of the tombstones. But this one in the middle was huge. Must have been a real important guy. Can't remember what name was on that, but it was a great big pylon, or what do you want to call the thing, spire going up that had, a plaque or something engraved in it. But then on the top, it had a bronze eagle on a ball. It was a spread eagle, bronze eagle on top of that thing, and it was always crooked, out there, and just the creepiest looking thing, those crooked gravestones and that big old bronze eagle over there. So we'd go and we'd kind of, scare ourselves by walking around and looking at how old the trees were in the middle of graves and how everything was disheveled, and it just had a feeling of complete and total neglect. As being a graveyard, it was pretty freaky. Well, every once in a while, Bill gets a little bit too smart for his own good, and I know they were really kind of scared. It was a freaky night. All you had to do was go boo and somebody jump, and so I took advantage of the situation. Everybody started wandering off this way into the cemetery. Well, I hid behind one of the great big oak trees. And once they turned around and they started coming back towards me again, as they got close, all of a sudden, I come running out from behind that tree, waving my arms in the air and screaming, "Whoa!" at the top of my lungs, running right at them. Well, that was Bill, but that ain't what they saw. All my friends took off. They were scared. Oh, my God. I mean, there was a trail of manure. They went off running down that farm road. They were on that cemetery so fast, you know. And I'm over there laughing, going, oh boy, I got him. What a good one. And then all of a sudden I stop and I'm all alone in an ancient cemetery out in the woods at night. What did I just do? And so I start running down the road too, you know. I get out there on the road and they're gone. They were so scared they got in the car. They put it in first and spun the tires and just got the heck out of there. Well, they were probably a couple miles down the road when suddenly they realized Bill wasn't in the car. Well, at first they go, oh my God, we left him back there. But then somebody else starts thinking, hey, who was that ran up behind that tree screaming, I bet that was Bill! Sure enough, yeah, they come on back down the road. I see them coming, and I know I'm in for this. It's not going to be pretty. Sure enough, you know, they drive along at 2 miles an hour, you know, and lock all the doors. Oh, let me in, you know. Finally, after teasing me endlessly, they did finally decide to let me back in the car. But the real thought was to leave me there in that cemetery in the middle of the night. Yeah. Yeah. I guess I still remember it as being pretty funny. So, yeah. So there you go, folks. I'm working up to these ghost stories. Graveyard story. You know, if you're going to go look for ghosts on Halloween, and with COVID around, after all, you know, to begin with, cemeteries probably don't have much COVID. All right. So maybe you won't even need your mask. Who knows? Ghosts? Well, ghosts can't get COVID, so you don't need to worry about spreading virus with them either. They're dead already, and so they don't care. Yeah, I mean, you know, graveyard, I figured that's notoriously known as a reasonable place to find ghosts. I mean, you know, a lot of times you find ghosts hanging around houses and things like that, old buildings and certain places. But, you know, a graveyard is a place where they take all the dead people and pile them in there. There are bound to be 2 or 3 ghosts hanging around just about any graveyard wondering what the heck happened. So, got nothing better to do on Halloween. I suggest it's a full moon night. I'd go looking for a graveyard. Yeah. And then I did say about the ghost stories I'd done a few years back that, you know, I was thinking about maybe drawing some forward. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a couple of them that I like and I'm going to put links in the text. Right down there on the text, you know, right below this video. Yeah, I'm going to put a couple links in there to some videos that I did a few years ago that were about haunts, ghosts, and other creepy subjects. I may even repost them all forward. I don't know what'll happen here. But it is Halloween. We got to do something. Right? Yeah, you can't even walk around giving out Snickers bars anymore. Oh, boy. Everything changes so fast, I can't keep track of it all. Aloha. Hang loose, folks. Watch out for spooks.